Well, children, let me introduce the writer for you. If you see, I have displayed his image for you. That is H.H. Munro. Okay, now who was H.H. Munro? He was a Scottish journalist and writer. His pen name was Saki. Now, what do you mean by pen name, children? Pen name means it is an assumed name. A few people, they don't want to give their real name, real identity, so they give an assumed name. So that's called pen name. So his pen name was Saki. He was known for his writing. He was known for writing witty stories. Now, what do you mean by witty stories? Clever, humorous, joke, that kind of stories, okay, which were set in the early 20th century, and it also poked fun at the society. So H.H. Munro, when he used to write the stories were humorous, and also it made fun. Humorous andre joke. It made fun at home, at the society. Okay, he was considered a master of the short story. Yes? Okay, that is about H.H. Munro. So he is the writer of this lesson, Dusk, children. Well, children, so let me start the lesson for you and explain it to you. So page number 89, Dusk. Norman Gotsby sat on a park bench on an early March evening. It was 30 minutes past 6 and dusk had fallen heavily. Now, what do you mean by dusk, children? Dusk means it is a time of the day when there is almost no light, but still it is not completely dark. If you see the sky after your sunset, it won't become immediately dark, but almost no light. I mean, it's not that bright, okay? So there is one main character in this lesson by Norman. So he's sitting on a park bench one evening, and it was 30 minutes past 6, which is 6:30, and dusk had fallen heavily, means it was getting dark. Okay, the roads and sidewalks wore a look of emptiness, occupied only by silent figures that moved through the half light or sat quietly on chairs and benches, so that they melted into the shadows in which they sat. So while he was sitting there in the park bench, so he was just having a view at the footpath. Sidewalks means footpaths that had a look of emptiness. Of course, see, if it's a morning time, people are very busy. They keep going here and there. It's busy. People go for work, people go to school, and all the other things. Okay, so generally people are busy and the roads are busy, all that. As it is getting evening, it is time for people to get back to their houses. So what happens? Slowly the movement of the people becomes less. So it was evening and he was sitting on the park bench. What happened? While he was having a look at the footpath, he could see the footpath had a look of emptiness, means people were not there. There weren't much people. Okay, only the chairs and benches were there, and only few were sitting or few were walking here and there. And what happened? They actually melted into the shadows in which they sat. Melted into the shadows means they sat so still in the darkness that no one couldn't see them. So the darkness actually covered the people who were sitting there. Okay. Dusk, to Gotsby's mind, was the hour of the defeated. He sympathized with them men and women who fought and lost in life's battle, who came forth in the gloomy hour of dusk, when their shabby clothes and unhappy eyes might pass unnoticed. And just beyond, on the other side of where we sat, were rows of windows from which shone bright lights that cut through the darkness of the evening, forcing it away, To Godspy's mind, it seemed that these brilliant lights marked the abodes of those people who had never had to admit defeat through life's struggles. Thus did Godspy's mind imagine these things as he sat on that bench in the near deserted sidewalk. So while Godspy was sitting, it was dark, okay? So for him, dusk means what he thinks is, it is the hour of defeated. What do you mean by hour of defeated? Okay, let me explain that for you. For him, he calls dusk as hour of defeated because he believed that it was the time when the less fortunate came out feeling revealed that they would be able to go about their work unnoticed. See, children, he's talking about men and women who fought in their life, whose struggles are unnoticed, whose shabby clothes are unnoticed, their eyes are filled with unhappiness. So, for him, dusk, that dark side, he calls the hour of defeated. Hour of defeated means all this. What? He feels that where people are broken, shattered because of very many reasons, and also the pain in their eyes have gone unnoticed, their shabby clothes are unnoticed, all that because it's dark, no? But just beyond on the other side where he was sitting, there was a bright light. So this bright light actually represented the lives of those people who never had to struggle or fight for anything in life. So as he was sitting in on the bench there in the park, one side is completely dark, and when you think of dark, all these people, and the other side he sees the bright light. Okay, bright light which is coming out of the windows, from the house windows from the other side, which is actually covering the darkness. So the bright light actually represented what for him? It is life of those people who never had to struggle or fight for anything in life. These were the lucky ones who were able to live happy life, he calls, free from trouble and want. Anything they want, they get it. So there is no trouble. They lived a very happy life, he calls. Okay, so as he was sitting in the park bench, he was imagining all these things. Yes, children? Okay. On the bench by his side sat an elderly gentleman with drooping shoulders, but there was a certain daring in his face. His clothes were not shabby, but one would not expect him to wear a carnation in his buttonhole. As he rose to go, Godspy imagined him returning to a home circle where nobody cared for him. He got up and walked away. So while he was sitting there and imagining all these things, on the park bench next to him, an elderly gentleman comes there with a drooping shoulder. Drooping shoulder means the shoulder was little bent because he's an old man, no? So he comes there, yes, as he comes there, he sits for a while. But there is certain daring in his face. Okay, though he's an old man, he had a very prim expression on his face. Although his clothes were not shabby or untidy, children, you see, but there was his clothes were not shabby, but one would not expect him to wear a carnation in his buttonhole. So he was not that shabbily dressed or untidily dressed. A decent man. He was very dressed neatly. But at that point of a time, means he's old, no? So when he is old, and he's wearing such a rich and fashionable dress. Rich and fashionable dress. How do I say that? See, he says, but one would not expect him to wear a carnation in his buttonhole. Carnation means, you see, there's a rose pinned up in the collar. When we go for wedding and all, we see when we very neatly dress up, no, we just try to pin 2 roses in the shirt collar or butt shirt somewhere there, like, yeah. So at that age, with the drooping shoulder, nobody would expect this old man to wear such a carnation in his buttonhole. Okay, now as he rose to go, Godspy imagined him returning to a home circle when nobody cared for him, he got up and walked away. So he came there, he sat for a while, and then he got up and he returned to the home circle. Home circle means, children, it is family and friends. His family and friends. From where did he come? He came from his family and friends only, no? So now he's returning back to his home circle, but nobody cared for him. Again, Godspy is imagining when this man came there, he just sat and he went off, like nobody cared for him. Okay? Then his figure vanished slowly into the shadows. His place on the bench was soon taken by a young man, fairly well dressed but with a sore look on his face. He uttered an angry grunt as he flung himself into the seat. Now this old man got up and went off. In his place there came a young man. Okay, he was fairly dressed, but he had a sore look on his face. What do you mean by sore look? A kind of disappointed. He's upset about something. So that kind of a face he had, and he uttered an angry grunt. Uttered means just keep murmuring or slowly in a low voice, making some angry guttural sound. Okay. Then he flung. Flung means not fly, but with a great force. He came and sat on the seat in that bench where that old man sat previously. Okay, now Norman Godspy, who was sitting there, he slowly starts a conversation with this young man. He asks him, "You don't seem to be in a good temper," said Godspy. The young man turned to him and said, "You wouldn't be in a good temper if you are in the fix I am in. I have done the silliest thing ever in my life." So he also opens up. He says, if you are in the fix I am in, means if you are in the problem that I am in, then even you wouldn't be in a good mood, because I have done a very silliest thing ever in my life. Now again, Godspy is asking, what have you done? So he says, came up to London this afternoon. I thought of staying at the Patagonian Hotel in Berkshire Square, said the young man. So he slowly is explaining what happened. He says, this afternoon he came to London and he thought of staying in a hotel. Which hotel? Patagonian Hotel in Berkshire Square, because that's the place where he used to stay, I believe. So he thought of staying there, said the young man. What happens after that? Why is he upset? We'll read that in the next page. Yes, turn to the next page, page number 90. Yes, page number 90. So he says, he came up to London and he thought of staying in a hotel this afternoon. What happens after that? When I got there, I found out that it had been pulled down. In the place of the hotel, a cinema theatre had come up. The taxi driver took me to another hotel some way off where I could stay. I at once sent a letter to my people giving them the address. Then I went out to buy some soap. I had forgotten to pack any, and I hate using hotel soap. Then I strolled up a bit, had a drink at a bar and looked at the shops. So he says he went to Patagonian Hotel in Berkshire this afternoon, but when he went there, the hotel had been pulled down. Pulled down means it was demolished, and in that place a cinema theatre had come up. And then the taxi driver took him to another hotel. Usually when we go outing, when we are blank or when we don't know the places that well, then definitely we can see how the drivers will suggest us, this hotel is good, that hotel is good, because they keep traveling, they keep meeting the passengers, so they will have an idea. Okay, just like that, the taxi driver took him to another hotel where he could go and stay. And then what happened? Immediately after going to that hotel, he wrote a letter to his people giving them the address. Why? Because the family should be aware of where he's staying, right? And then he realized he didn't pack soap. He forgot to pack any, and he doesn't like using the hotel soap. Again, when we go outing or when we go for traveling, we do carry a set of dress a toothpaste, a brush and soap, all that. So he says he forgot to pack any, and then he thought of going and buying one soap because he don't like using the hotel soap. Okay, so what did he do? I strolled up a bit, had a drink at a bar and looked for the shop. So he strolled up a bit. Strolled means to take a leisure walk. Okay, and he just went for a leisure walk, and then maybe he felt thirsty or hungry. That's not mentioned, however. So he just had a drink at the bar. Okay, and then looked for the shops where he could buy the soaps, children. Yes. When I turned my steps back to the hotel, I suddenly realized that I didn't remember the name of the hotel or even what street it was in. I have no friends in London. I can write to my people for the address, but they will get my letter only tomorrow. Meantime, I am without any money, came out with a shilling in my pocket, which went in buying the soap and the drink. Here I am, wandering about with 2 pence in my pocket and nowhere to go for the night. The story is followed by a long, eloquent pause. I suppose you think I have spun you an impossible yarn, he said. Not at all impossible, said Gatsby. I remember doing a similar thing in a foreign capital. So what happened? He says, after coming out of that hotel, going for a leisure-free walk, had a drink and then looked for the shops. And after I found this shop and I bought the soap, I thought of going back to the hotel, and then I realized I forgot the name of the hotel and also in which street the hotel is. Oh. Yes, that is all. That may be true because he's new to that hotel. Yes, maybe he could not recollect the name of the hotel or recollect the address. So that is why he is upset about. Okay. Now he says, I have no friends in London. So he have no friends in London that he can ask help for. And also, if he have to write a letter to his people, yes, if he have to write a letter to his people asking them for the address. You see, in the first place when he came, he wrote a letter giving them the address. So if he has to write the letter to them again asking them to send the address, the letter that he wrote will reach only tomorrow. And they sending the address after that, it will just take 1 or 2 days. So where am I going to stay tonight? And he says the money that I bought came out with a shilling. Shilling means a unit of money which was used in Britain, children. Yes, he says, I came with the shilling in my pocket. I bought the soap, I had a drink, and now I have nothing in my pocket, just 2 pence. 2 pence is 2 penny. 2 penny in my pocket, and I don't know where to go. After telling the whole thing, he just gave an eloquent pause. Means there was a meaningful silence. Means he wanted Gatsby to react to whatever he said. And then he says, do you think I have spun you an impossible yarn? He asks, do you think I have told you some impossible story? So Gatsby says, no, not at all possible. I also remember doing a similar thing in the foreign capital. So you look at Gatsby, how good he is. He says, no, not at all. Even when I had been to a foreign country, I have experienced such things. So don't think that I'm not believing your story, he says. Okay, I hope all of you are understanding the lesson, children. Yes. Now let's move on to the next page, page number 90. Page number 91. But on that occasion, there were 2 of us. We remembered luckily that the hotel was on a smaller canal, and after some search, when we found the canal, we found the hotel. In a foreign city, it wouldn't be difficult. I could go to the council and get help from him. Here, unless I find a decent chap who would believe my story and lend me some money, I have to spend the night perhaps on the embankment. Have you got the soap with you? Gatsby asked. The young man at once sat forward, felt rapidly in the pockets of the overcoat, and then jumped to his feet. I must have lost it, he muttered angrily. Gatsby said, the weak point in your story is that you are unable to produce the soap. To lose a hotel and a cake of soap on one afternoon suggests willful carelessness. When the young man heard this remark, he hurried away from the path, his head held high. Okay, so Godspy says, see, in that case, when he says, no, it happened with me also in a foreign country, but in that case, two of us were there, me and my friend were there. So we knew the hotel was somewhere near the smaller canal. After some search, we started searching for the hotel, we found the canal, and then we found the hotel, he says. Again, now the young man says, it is not difficult, it wouldn't be difficult to find or to go to the, in a foreign city. Why it wouldn't be difficult, children, in a foreign city? Because there will be a person called council. Council means he is an official appointed by the country's government to live in a foreign city and aid and protect his own country's citizen living there. Example, now we as an Indians, we go to foreign countries to work, to study, on a vacation. What if something goes wrong there? I mean, if we lose our visa, if we have a trouble there, any trouble, we have one Indian officer who is appointed in foreign country who comes to our help there. So, because it's a foreign country, you cannot go and contact any foreigners there. They might not be helpful. So, what happens? You can take help of the council officer who is appointed there. He is from India, helping the Indians there. Okay, so he says, if it is a foreign country, I can go to the council and I can get a help from him. But here, after listening to my whole story, some decent fellow should understand what I'm telling is true, and he should lend me some money. Otherwise, where will I go this night? I have to spend on the embankment. On the embankment means it is an area in the London on the bank of River Thames. Means river, somewhere in the riverside I should spend the night, he says. Now, Godspy cleverly asks, okay, you say you have come for buying soap and you've lost away. I understand all that. So have you got the soap with you? So the young man quickly tried to check in his pocket and the overcoat that he was wearing. And he says, I must have lost it. Maybe he didn't find the soap, so he says, I might have lost it. Now again Godspy says, see, the weak point in your story. See, the soap is like an evidence. If you would have showed the soap, then people would believe, anybody would believe, oh, maybe he's telling truth and he lost the way, he lost the money. I mean, there's no money, and there somebody will come forward to help. But if there's no soap only, whatever the story he's telling, it's a weak story. So Godspy says, see, the weak point in your story is you are unable to produce the soap, and to lose a hotel and a cake of soap on one afternoon suggests willful carelessness. He says, if it is at night time, it is understood. You have lost the way and all that. But during the afternoon time, because something that this incident happened to him in the afternoon, no? So he's explaining to Godspy in the evening. So he says, losing a way to the hotel or losing a soap in the afternoon time, it shows your carelessness. Not just carelessness, willful carelessness. Means deliberate, wantedly losing it. Okay, when Godspy made this remark, the young man got up from there. Yes, his head held high. He walked away. Maybe he understood Norman Godspy is not going to do any help to him. So he got up and he just went off from that place. Okay, children. I stop here. So the homework is read the lesson. I stop here, like I said. Read the lesson from page number 89 to 90, 91 till where we have finished. The continuation of this lesson will be sent in another video. Another audio. Okay. And one more thing, children, this lesson is there for your FA4. Yes, notes is already sent, textbook exercise PDF is already sent. So please listen to the recording 1 or 2 times. If you have any doubt, get back to me. Okay.